Welcome to Just Talking About Jesus. I'm Jan Johnson, a seasoned believer who loves relationships and, just talking about Jesus.
I think just looking at her, just objectively looking at her, you can see her life is amazing. Her life is awesome. She is such a woman of integrity and strong character, and she's faithful. She's so courageous and she's so faithful. But for me, especially, and I think for, my other sisters, and we look at her and we say, she did it. She lived our charism. She is one of us. She's one of our sisters, and she was faithful every single day. It's hard, it's difficult, and you don't know what God is going to ask you to do. You don't know what that journey is going to look like. So for her to faithfully say yes to God every single day, no matter what it is that he's asking. In the morning, you kneel down by your bed and you pray and you say, okay, God, I'm giving you a blank check.
Welcome back. And if you're new here, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. I'm Jan Johnson, and joined today by Marti D'Arcangelo. This episode is personal because my guest is my own daughter, Sidney, a.k.a. Sister Mercy, a member of the Servants of the Lord. Sister Mercy just wrapped up an incredible project with her community, a 4.5-hour play about the life of a woman named Maria Fix, who survived Soviet persecution, forced labor camps in Siberia, and decades running an underground church, before finally in her 80s receiving the one thing she'd wanted her whole life. Sister Mercy, thank you for being here. And welcome to this episode with Marti D'Arcangelo and I, who are interviewing my daughter, Sidney, a.k.a. Sister Mercy, who is part of the Order of Servants of the Lord of Matara. Got it right? Okay. All right. She had a really neat experience putting together a play. This was some of her sisters from Maria Hicks.
Nope.
Oh, come on.
It's literally, it's written. It's written right here.
I can't see that part.
It's written.
Fix. Like fixing a sink or a toilet or a fix. Maria Fix. You can do this.
She had a really great experience recently. She had a really great experience with her sisters putting together a play about a woman named Maria Fix, who was from Russia. And I'm going to let her tell about this, but it's really a fascinating woman of the faith that I think you're just going to be inspired with, right?
Right.
Right.
I hope so.
Okay. Take it away.
I am really taken away by her, because she's one of our sisters, like you said. So I'm from order called the Servants of the Lord, and she's one of our sisters. And so she, I've heard about her, I've seen pictures of her before and heard her name, but it wasn't really until reading through this play so many, 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 many times that I really have learned more about her life, and she's, become a friend. But basically she is a confessor of the faith. So she grew up in Russia under the Soviet communist regime. And when she was little, so she'd always had this deep desire to be a sister. She'd always wanted to serve the Lord in that way. And when she was about 15 years old, the Soviets came in the night and arrested her father and her brother and took them away, interrogated them. The next night they came back and they were clearly, beaten up, bruised, bleeding and such. And they told them they had, to get everything ready right then, right there. And they arrested the soldiers came back and arrested the whole family and sent them to a work camp in Siberia. And so on this journey, she took a 55-day journey in a cattle car that was just enough room for them to stand. It was so crowded that it was, no lights, no windows, nothing, just a little bucket in the middle that they could use as a bathroom. So they're severely malnourished, they're cold, they didn't give them proper clothing or shoes, boots or anything. And then when many people had died along the journey, including her 2-year-old sister. So when they arrived there, they were given axes and told to cut. They didn't have any home, any shelter, any means of survival really, or anything at all in Siberia. And so she was in this forced labor camp, and they were doing cutting timber, the men, the women, the children, everyone. And she was there for about 9 years the first time. And then she ended up getting a pass that she could use to travel within a certain region, but she used it to escape to go back to her hometown. She still had a grandmother that was there. And so she was able to escape and take another train journey back to her grandmother's. And she was there for about 2 or 3 months before she was arrested again. They came in the middle of the night. She was sleeping in a room with her family and 2 of her sisters. And the soldiers came in and yanked her by the hair and arrested her. And they went through a fake trial that it's like they've already decided what the verdict is, and sent her again to a Gulag, to a forced labor camp. And she was there for about another 7 to 9 years, I believe. She was actually supposed to be released a year prior, but they, forgot to tell her or lost the paperwork or whatever. And she just has this amazing story there of really just her faithfulness to God, her fidelity to her faith, that she was able, even in the midst of all of this torment, really. She's written poems about this time in her life, and in one of them she says, "I don't know how I lived, and I don't know how I didn't die," because constantly she's being maltreated by the prisoners, by the other workers in the camp, as well as the Soviets. And eventually she's able to be released, and some of her family, her dad and her brothers, had been killed by the Soviets in the camps. But I believe her mom and some of her sisters had survived. And so she ended up living with one of her sisters and trying to find a job. But of course, no one wanted to hire her because she was a prisoner, But she ends up finding work as a laundress in a hospital. But the whole time she and her sister are part of this group that's helping run this clandestine church throughout Russia. And so they're, bringing people communion, visiting the sick, visiting people in prison. They had this they would translate. They would stay up. She would go to work all day, and then all night she would stay up translating books, because they didn't have any religious books or the Bible or anything.
Right.
And so she and her sister would work as a means of catechizing others and spreading the faith. So they would stay up and they would write and translate all these things so they could distribute information about their faith.
Tell us, what year was that? What years?
I think so. I believe we can look up, there's a great website that our sisters have made about her, and it has her story, her biography, pictures of her and stuff. It has a timeline of her faith. But in this point, it's about 40s, 50s. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, no, anybody that was Christian, whatever that was, had to be underground, because that was not.
Right. So it's she's living, everything is underground, and she's being constantly harassed. The KGB, multiple times she was arrested and interrogated and beaten by the KGB officers. But she continued to spread the faith, and she continued to be she's a leader in the community for the Catholic faith. The people, because at the time there weren't really priests that were there and able to minister to people's needs, eventually because part of our religious family, so we have sisters, obviously, but we have priests and brothers. And so in the early 90s, our founder had offered for our priests to come to Russia, because as part of our charism is we want to go where nobody else wants to go. And so he had written to the bishop there and offered to send priests. And so they arrived in the early 90s. And so she was able to be a connection with them, to be able to go out and into the community, to say who do you minister to? Who do you go? Who are the people that are safe to go to? And they would have clandestine masses. And there were several times when it was they knew that they were going to be arrested. And so they would entrust her, with the care of the flock. But eventually, they had told her that they had sisters, and eventually the sisters were going to come. And she'd always had this deep desire to, to be a spouse of Christ, to be able to offer herself. But at this point, she's in her mid-80s with advanced Parkinson's. And so, she has this, obviously she's too old to become a sister, right? And so there's this moment she would often, because she had Parkinson's, she would, when she was eating, she was, embarrassed that her food would fall out of her mouth and stuff. So it wasn't uncommon for her to go away into another room to finish her meal. And so she had done that during a meal, but she didn't come back. And so one of the sisters went to check on her. They found her just weeping in the chair and, said, "Oh, Maria, what's wrong? What happened?" And she's just weeping. And she says, "Why can't it be me? Why can't I be a spouse of Christ?" As she sees this in these sisters that are there, she sees this gift that it is to be consecrated completely to God and to give herself, this deep longing she's had since childhood to completely surrender herself to God. And so she said, "Well, why not you?" She said, "I'm old. I have Parkinson's. I'm in my 80s." And she said, "Okay, well, why not you?" So she was able to obtain special permission to be able to enter, even though she was already in her 80s, Parkinson's, and, lived a full life. So she was able to enter, and she received her name and her habit and professed her final vows all in the same day.
Wow. That's quite a story to start with. And didn't you say earlier on, hadn't you said that she had a 2-year-old brother?
She had a 2-year-old sister, Ekaterina, who had started on the journey with them, but then died in the wagons on the way.
Can you even imagine that? I mean, really, what even a portion of that would have been like, it just can't even, it's like reading Nazi Germany stories or whatever, a lot of it is the same kind of thing, but just to even, I just can't even imagine. I don't think I could make it through.
But that's really it's something that, her parents obviously instilled in her a great love for the faith and their family, so it's something that since childhood has been very strong. We had scenes of them praying together as a family and, uniting and that. But it's something that clearly is something that she has seen reflected in her family, seen reflected in her parents, and has made her own, but they really were able to maintain that faith and ultimately be willing to die for it.
So, Sister Mercy, if the play was 4.5 hours.
Not intentionally, but yes.
How did that happen? I kind of want to go back in time and be in the audience.
Yeah, I don't think you do. Well, I mean, only because I know it was just so painful. Because we had in my house, there's 25 sisters. So each one of us had our own part to play in this. And so I was in charge of the props and the sets in the background. And we had somebody who was doing music and lights and somebody who was doing costumes, and then 2 people that were directing and had written it, and then everyone else was acting in it. And let me tell you, those scene changes were rough because, I mean, we're religious sisters. We're not professional.
However, you did have some acting experience in high school.
Not enough that could have prepared me for this, I'll tell you. But really, we often make a lot of silly skits. We call them divagues, but silly skits of things that have happened, just for fun. And we have yet to make this, but we really have been, when we've, so many things that really happened during the play that you think of in the middle, you're like, oh my gosh, why? But afterwards, you're like, oh my gosh, that was hilarious. We had one scene. The people
it's common. Breaks the tension of everything.
Yeah. We had the people who were opening and closing the curtains. It was you couldn't do it quick enough. And so they didn't have time to get out of the way. So one of them, at one point, they ended up wrapped up in the curtain. And they had a part. She's professing her final vows. It's this scene. It's set up for mass. It's beautiful.
And it's supposed to be
Right.
a moment.
So there's 4 sisters that are singing this beautiful litany, like Litany of the Saints, and it's, gorgeous, whatever. But one of them was trapped in the curtain. And so she started singing her part from the curtain.
A little muffled.
Yeah, a little muffled, but fine. Yeah. We definitely had lights.
Did you have sound effects and everything?
We did. We had we actually had a very generous donor who had donated, he lent us all of the lights, the sound, the equipment, everything to use for the night yeah.
Mhm.
Wow.
We even had a fog machine that didn't come into practice because there was a lot happening.
Well, for 4.5 hours or 4 hours maybe of a play, did you have time to when could you rehearse and do these things? Because you
That's-
kinda have a life in
Yeah.
between, right?
Right. A lot of our yeah. Up until the last week, probably before the play, it was a lot of like, hey, we have free time here, let's try this. Hey, we have free time here, let's try that. But we have an hour a day that we have siesta. You can take a nap or you can, just free time. And so a lot of that was spent practicing, making props, painting backgrounds, doing scenes. The costumes, a lot of the costumes were donated. The school, one of the local schools let us borrow them. But definitely, like, you want to see your sisters in their prime, tell them to put on a play.
That sounds great. So Jan and Sister Mercy and I got to talk about this play earlier on this week. And what struck me the most about talking to Sister Mercy about Maria Fix was the adoration, really, that Sister Mercy had with Maria Fix's tenacity, really, and ongoing determination and guts. And she just made it through so many things. And I would like to know, Sister Mercy, how did this change your life? How did this, knowing this woman, getting to know this woman, you said that she is now your friend, through all of the research and reading that you did of this obviously beautiful woman, how has it colored your everyday?
I think just looking at her, like, just objectively looking at her, you can see her life is amazing. Her life is awesome. Like, she is such a woman of integrity and strong character, and she's faithful. Like, she's so courageous and she's so faithful. But for me, especially, and I think for, my other sisters, and we look at her and we say, she did it. She lived our charism. She is one of us. She's one of our sisters, and she was faithful every single day. That, I mean, it's hard, it's difficult, and you don't know what God is going to ask you to do. You don't know what that journey is going to look like. So for her to faithfully say yes to God every single day, no matter what it is that he's asking. In the morning, you kneel down by your bed and you pray and you say, okay, God, I'm giving you a blank check. A blank check.
Yes.
Do what you want. Do what you want. Whatever you want. And that really means whatever you want. And to see her having lived this faithfully is, I mean, it's beyond inspiring, really. It's if she could do this and she could live this life and be faithful to Christ and whatever he's called for her, then it's such an inspiration for the rest of us.
Right. I did, as you were talking, I was thinking about how beautiful the Lord has made us with relationships. And there's a scripture in the Bible that says that we comfort people the way that he has comforted us. And it sounds like Maria spent her life comforting others the way that the Lord had comforted her through such magnanimous difficulties. She must have been quite a woman.
Really.
Yeah. Oh, Marti, you've been to Russia. How does that compare? I mean, what thoughts, thinking back to when you were in Russia, what thoughts do you have?
Yeah, we talked about this earlier on in the week, and I have been to Russia. I went to Russia for 17 days about just 10 years ago. And I think if you have not been to Russia, it's very hard to explain the culture and just the air that you breathe, the ground that you walk on. It is very oppressive. I guess I kind of felt all of the hardships and the bloodshed and the hurt, just the difficult history that country had had. And being in a little space in Russia and researching Russia and Siberia and the time that Sister Mercy learned about Maria Fix's life, that was a very, very difficult time in the history of the world and the history of Russia. So I felt a little pull of how truly difficult it must have been for her to live that life, because I had a little touch of the oppression that she must have lived under all these years later.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And still, I would imagine that the time that you went, it wasn't quite as bad for Christians.
No.
Mhm.
Right. That's right.
Mhm.
Yeah. Still not, well, there's a lot of things to learn about what you can and cannot say and what you can and cannot do when you take a trip
Mhm.
like that.
Mhm.
So still, it's not what we're used to in America,
Right.
I will say.
Let's just
Yeah.
say it wasn't the same.
Wasn't the same. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think when Sister Mercy was talking about all of the things that Maria went through, my heart just went out to this beautiful woman. And I'm so glad that I got the chance to listen to Mercy talk about Maria. And I would encourage our listeners to get on the website that maybe you can list Miss Jan so they can learn about Miss Maria too. And also I I feel like, Sister Mercy, that God has gifted you with a tenacity that He gifted Maria. And so I was hoping through this podcast that our listeners and our family that we have could just kind of make a pact with the future that you have, that we will be praying for you. And one of the scriptures I was thinking about as we are praying for you, Sister Mercy, and your future, because you're going to tell us in a few minutes about what's going on with your next part of your life. Let's do Colossians 1:9 and just pray this over you and keep praying this over you. So we have not stopped praying for you since we first heard about you. We ask God to give you complete knowledge of His will and to give you spiritual wisdom and understanding. Then the way you live will always honor and please the Lord, and your lives will produce every kind of good fruit. All the while you will grow as you learn to know God better and better. And that's the story that we are listening to today that you're telling us about. We have a beautiful sister that was given spiritual wisdom and understanding and produced great fruit. And that's your future too.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah. So what is happening? So you've been in 4 years, right? And had done all kinds of formation, learning. What are some of the classes that you've taken?
well, this past year have definitely been my favorite classes, but
Spanish?
um we start out by taking a lot of philosophy. So we study specifically the philosophy of St. Thomas Aquinas because it's what the church has produced as like put forth as solid, trustworthy philosophy. But the reason behind it is because the goal of studying theology is you can't really study theology without first studying philosophy and knowing what the terms are. Because you can't really say, like, okay, who is God? Who is man? Who is your neighbor, right? Without
Mhm.
first understanding what those terms are and what that actually really means. And so for the past few years, I've been studying philosophy and I've finished those classes now. So this past year was theology. So it was my favorite classes we took. I did one on bioethics, which was awesome, fantastic. And then some on theological anthropology. So it's the idea of like, who is man? Who is God created man to be? Who are they because of the fall in Adam and Eve? And then who is the redeemed man because of Christ? So those have definitely been my favorite classes this past year.
And so what's ahead for you? The summer is packed with
It
all kinds of
is.
traveling. Give us a little picture of what's going on with that.
A quick snapshot of it. I started out, I went to upstate New York and we did a youth festival for teens. So it's kind of like a retreat away from, many of them are from cities. So some of them are coming from like inner city New York, and it's the first time out in the wild, crazy green grass running, going nuts. But it's really good. We have, mass and adoration, we have talks and games, and so that's great. And then I am here for my home visit, and we went, had all sorts of fun. I've got to mow the fields, be on the tractor, went fishing yesterday.
Yeah. Sturgeon fishing and
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then after this, I'll go back to DC and we'll take a road trip to Dallas.
For Texas, huh?
Yeah, about a week. And then we're doing a big meeting for families. So like our families and then other families that we know, but it's basically getting together and it's formation for the
reunion.
Whole, yeah, it's a whole family reunion, but it's formation for the whole family. So we have babies, toddlers, little kids, big kids, teenagers, adults, young adults, whole track for that. So it's really is like individually tailored to each person coming to be able to receive formation and then be together with their families and such. And then I'm going to California for summer oratory, which is basically like a giant version of a vacation Bible school.
It's pretty big.
It is.
Wow.
Several hundred kids that show up. So it's quite, it's well attended.
Yeah.
It's fun.
And that's not just your sisters, it's a combination of other, it's the same order.
Yeah.
Right. But but in the Bay Area they have a big.
Yes. Yeah. And then I'm going to Suriname for 2 weeks, I think, for a boys camp and a girls camp. And then I'm going to Argentina.
So, world traveler. So, at some point, we'll be able to catch up and see what all those adventures were like, right? I hope you're keeping a good journal.
Maybe. No time.
Okay.
And then after Argentina, you're off to your, I don't know, I guess. Yeah, well, if we were talking about a military type of lifestyle, you would be off to your new post.
Yes.
Or you'd be off to your new base after Argentina. And we don't know where that is yet.
The great unknown.
Right?
Wherever he wants me.
So it's kind of exciting.
Yeah, it's super exciting.
I mean, it's actually what you've been waiting for
really,
for 4 years.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you're
that moment.
waiting.
Yeah.
Find out where I'll go.
Yeah. So
waiting and trusting.
Fingers crossed for Ireland, but we'll see what God wants.
Who knows?
Yep.
Gotta pray.
And waiting and trusting for the right place for you to practice that spiritual wisdom and thanksgiving and all of those things that we've been talking about this afternoon.
Right.
Good fruit.
What would you like to leave our audience with? What words of advice or wisdom you have, or what has God taught you the most that you are going to cling to?
I don't know about advice or wisdom, but an invitation to trust. Really, that's the thread of everything. The thread of like, Jesus, I trust in you, and that
Amen.
Abiding in Him and knowing that with your eyes fixed on Him, He is a God of providence and whatever He wants and however He wants and for as long as He wants. But you haven't failed me yet.
Yeah.
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 Right.
So I will put links in the show notes for Miss Maria. It's really kind of neat with different photos in there. And if you On the YouTube version of this, you'll be able to see photos of them as well. I'll put those photos in there along the story with the story there. So that'll be kind of neat. Also, I'll put the link to Sidney's sister Mercy's, slipped. Sister Mercy's order, so that if any of you maybe want to support her, and they got a lot of travel funds that are coming up if you want to support her in any way, but most importantly, support her in prayer and support these girls in prayer, because as you know, when somebody's praying for you, it changes your life. It changes your perspective, your outlook, and everything else. So we would, just as Marty was saying, go back and pray the Colossians. It was in Colossians, right?
Yeah, it was Colossians chapter 1, verse 9.
Yeah.
Starts at verse 9.
Yeah. So I'd encourage you to do that. And as always, if you have comments or questions or things that you want to post, that would be really fun to see as well, and encouraging for us as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sure.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Pleasure to talk with you,
Thank you.
always.
Always a pleasure. All right. So until next time, keep talking about Jesus.
Bye.
Sister Mercy, thank you for sharing Maria's story with us. And I wish we could have been there to actually watch the play. And thanks for sharing where you are in your own journey. I'll put links in the show notes to learn more about Bioethics, including some beautiful photos, and a link to Sister Mercy's order if you'd like to support her, especially in prayer as she heads into a summer of travel and towards whatever is next for her. We prayed Colossians 1:9 over her today, and we're going to keep praying it as you go. To everyone listening, go pray that over someone you love this week. Colossians 1:9. So we have not stopped praying for you since we first heard about you. We ask God to give you complete knowledge of His will and to give you spiritual wisdom and understanding. Then the way you live will always honor and please the Lord, and your lives will produce every kind of good fruit. I'll leave you with 2 more scriptures, 2 Corinthians 1:3 and 4. Praise be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of compassion and the God of all comfort, who comforts us in all our troubles, so that we can comfort those in any trouble with the comfort we ourselves receive from God. And Proverbs 3:5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your path straight. We hope to see you again next time, and meanwhile, just keep talking about Jesus. Do you have a friend or relative that would find value in this episode? Please share it. And you can let them know that if they'd prefer to watch, I always put these episodes on YouTube. So check that out in the show notes. And if you watch on YouTube, consider subscribing, because just as when you subscribe to this podcast and get notification when new episodes are out, the same will happen if you subscribe to my YouTube channel. Just talking about Jesus. And then you won't miss an episode. Speaking of subscribing, are you getting my newsletters? These not only tell the guest stories, but also include pictures and links to the website and YouTube. I also add a little about my life, and who doesn't want to know that?